Hi Simone, so I'm looking at the new iteration of your blocking, and so let's see what we can improve there, if everything works and so forth. So let's move on. So the first thing we can do in here is we can try and understand if once we go down this much with the head, as we move up this way, perhaps you could, instead of, you see you're going up and to the left, right? So this is more or less the vector. So I would expect the follow through of this head to perhaps go down and to the right. Instead, it seems like you're moving forward. So that's bizarre, especially if you consider, let's track the middle of the middle of the head, on the top of the head. See what it does from the top view. It goes this way, right? So it goes this way, and as a follow through, you're moving this way. That's strange, right? So what we want to do in there is perhaps you want to follow through a bit more in this direction, and also from the camera view, you could probably stretch the head a tiny bit and then settle down and squash it back and lower it a tiny bit. That could be a way, and it would be in line with the motion you've done so far. As far as these pose is concerned, then I would lower the ears a bit more, so that as you settle down, they will come up again. You can try that. Then we go down. I think perhaps just a second. Nothing, I don't think anything. So let's have a look at the rest. So I'm tracking this guy now. Remember what I said about the head? You won't remember probably because it was long ago, but when you did the breakdown in here, I told you do not leave the head right in the middle of between one pose and the other. Don't give us that frontal pose. Decide if you're going to put the nose to the right hand side of the pose or on this side of the pose. Okay, remember I told you that, because you always want to give an audience a suggestion of where things are going or where they're coming from. If you put stuff in the middle, we don't know what's going on there. So I'm going to give you the same advice in here, this pose in here. So in here, I think you want to decide whether the index is delayed or if it's already going in that direction. I would imagine you could already go in that direction. I would imagine you could already put the finger that way. There you go, just down there, okay? But the only thing I wouldn't do is straight. But I don't know for sure. I mean, I'm just saying, decide one direction, okay? And I think in here, if you go down this way, you need to translate the index forward a tiny bit, the wrist forward and down a bit, so that as you recoil, there will be a bit of translation as well. Right now, it's just rotation, okay? It looks like it's just rotation. And you need to learn to track arcs in the 3D view. I mean, if you really want to unlock very well refined animation, you need to track the 3D view as well, okay? So if you track the wrist in here, it's going that way, and then it's coming this way, and then it's staying there. That cannot be. So if you have an arc that does this, you do this even in the 3D view, or this, you decide, but you track the arc, okay? I leave it to you to track the arc, because the problem is that a lot of the stuff that you see in here that you think maybe it's a bit strange, you don't know why it is strange in the camera, then you look at here and you realize you're not tracking the arcs. I mean, you don't need to be very super precise about the arcs you have in here, Although if you do creature animation, it will help to be a bit precise there, but it will definitely help iron out the quality of your animation in camera if you follow the arcs in 3D, okay? That's fairly important. Then when you go and super refine the animation, you can, I guess, overlook some of the tracking in 3D, okay? But at this stage, the more work you do, the more groundwork you do, and the easier the splining will be. And we know that splining, the passage between splining, blocking and splining is not really necessarily straightforward, right? So then the other thing that I was mentioning that we could do is, I think on this pose here, you can compress the neck a lot more. Right now what you're doing here is you are lower the neck and keeping the nose a bit up, but then in the next pose you're lowering the nose a lot more. Look at the arc again. Look at the arcs in the top view. No arc whatsoever from the top view. Look at the nose, it stays exactly there, and then boom, you have this mega jump forward if you track the head, and then you have a little bit of movement up, and look at no arc at all there, and then you settle back. But I think the biggest problem, an area of improvement here perhaps could be in here. Do not lower the nose. Maybe you can lower the nose as much, okay, fair enough, but can you translate the head down as well and raise the shoulders so that it becomes, suppose, a lot more compressed than it is? And that will give you a lot more push on the way out. So what I would do is I would rotate the head a tiny bit less on the pitch down, and I would instead translate it down, and I would compress. You still want to see a tiny bit of the neck or the white neck in there, but you want to definitely raise the shoulder and just translate the head down. And in here I would stretch the neck. And the big explosion happens more or less in here with the forehead stretching. If you make him stretch in here, there is really no reason to do that. In here, as the head translates forward, if anything, the neck should stay behind here, but it shouldn't become longer and grow and raise in frame. You see how you raise there? It doesn't make any sense, that thing. So I wouldn't really raise that much the forehead there. I would try to keep it where it is. And then as you move forward, the way you do in here, you could, if you can, if the rig allows for it, you could do that. So that then the forehead would sort of jump forward. One of the problems with the weight of this shot is if we track the bum in here, then what the bum is doing is going to the right from the side view, okay, to the right, then diagonally up, just a second, so diagonally up on the left, and then it's moving magically vertically up. Can you not, as we discussed in the previous feedback, move it a bit more to the left so that you keep track of that arc you established, right? Look at the arc now. Can you see it does that? It's a lot more elegant. And then do not freeze completely the guy in the air. Just move it a bit more to the left, a tiny bit, just not to have it frozen. And then it's a bit strange that all of a sudden in this pose you lift the weight. Look at this. See that? So you either keep moving a tiny bit forward and up, or you give us enough motion with the hands to justify the weight moving forward, but with the hand moving down this much, it's unlikely then the body will raise in here. Okay, so that's one of the biggest problems there, I think. So your biggest problems, I think, they are perhaps, well, not even biggest problems, but areas of improvement, because it could work as it is. You can compress more in here, you can extend more in here, you need a better follow through in here. Remember to track this point of view as well. And then in here you can compress more, and then you have to track the bum and make sure you are tracking the motion there of the bum, some sort of an arc, and you don't suddenly move it up in the air. If it has to be up in the air, it has to be up in the air earlier and then come down. You cannot come up, stop there, and then fly up again, okay? Unless you're going for a more extreme kind of animation, which I don't think you are yet. Then when you do the overlap for the hands there, make sure there is a bit of translation, not just, okay, especially check the arcs in 3D for the hands. They need to make sense in 3D, and I am not sure they do. I mean, I'm checking the right arm now. I cannot track it because the pelibus is too low quality, but make sure you track the arc in 3D as well there. Trust me, it will make a big difference in your animation. So in here, if you have to go this high up with the right arm, which I understand, you can perhaps go a bit outer again. Sorry about that. I think I told you to move it closer to the head at a certain point, so that means that this pose in here will be a bit more further out from the top view, and a bit more, I guess, like this. Perhaps maybe you could even raise it a bit more, and then as you come down, you can come down a bit more outside the silhouette of the face so that you don't intersect as much. And in here, remember what I said last time, you gotta tell the audience where to look at. And right now, if you check these two hands, they move more or less by the same amount. See what they do there. So what the audience is going to see, and that's even noticeable in here, what the audience is going to see, they're going to see you draw this line, which you don't want us to see that. You want us to track this thing, I think. So I think you would either offset the two arms so that one does its action and the other one does the action next, or perhaps in here you can delay the right arm so that it moves less than the left one, and then it settles a bit later, okay? For the tail, in here, this pose should really be with the tail still behind the body, the tip of the tail behind the body, and then you would have a pose like this one, or rather you would have a pose with the tail in here, and then you would have a pose like this one. So this would be the motion, see? I think in this pose the tail could actually go even higher there, and in this pose probably you could have the tip still unfolding, and then perhaps you could go down even lower in here. And this pose in here really would work better if it were this way, so that you can unfold later. And this pose in here would work better if the tail was there, so that as you land down here, the tip of the tail is still unfolding, and then it can go down. So you're just moving the tail a bit too early. But that's, I mean, I always got tails wrong at the beginning, okay? I mean, on my first project I was animating trunks and elephant ears, as well as the elephant itself at a certain point, but I always, after that, for some reasons, tails, when I was doing blocking, I always got them wrong. I don't know why. and then I had to rework the blocking to make them work. I always got the timing wrong for that. That's about it. So have fun, work on, it's going in the right direction, it's looking more solid by the minute. Obviously it's a very demanding shot, because I mean you don't always do something like this, of course, but it's a good experiment. I would say track also the heels of your character, see what the heels are doing, because in here the heels is moving up that way, then it's moving, so you're doing an arc like this one, so your arc looks a bit too much like this in there. So you will want, once you spline, you want to keep an eye on that, and then you go diagonally that way, and then you go this way. So just make sure you're, and then for some reason you stayed there. Then perhaps what you could do is you could already open the leg a bit more in here and have a bit more the I don't really know where to go from here, sorry. Now I have too many sketches going on there. So if you plan to open the leg this much in here, can you not start opening it in here already a bit more, so that you're not changing? Look at the difference. You go from showing us the bottom of this foot and the top of this one to the next frame the opposite. So I would perhaps give a hint in this pose. Maybe in this pose in here, you don't want the leg to be fully parallel to this line, but you want it to be a bit more open already. So you're showing us a bit more of the top of the foot. So as you travel to this pose, you will show us most of the top of the foot, and the leg will be a bit more open, so that when it shows up, it makes some sense. And also you want it to travel up already a bit, because right now you stay there for two poses and then you suddenly move up and then you go down again. That's strange. But if you already are more or less up in there, the only thing that will change between this pose and that pose is the rotation, which we can accept. I mean, most of the stuff would be the rotation. There will be some translation. And when you go down here, I think you want to have the pose with the tip of the foot still high up. And then 2 frames later, you go flat down. Do the same thing when you track the left leg. And your foot is sliding here. Your left foot is sliding here. In here, this pose should probably be flat with the tip up, and 1 or 2 frames later you should be flat. That's it. So it seems to me that the biggest problems you have is that you're not tracking stuff in 3D. Either than that, it's going in the right direction. Have fun. Bye.